Welcome back to My Classic Car. Our travels this week have brought us to Michigan for the Camaro Street Nationals. The Camaro Club of Michigan is the presenter of this first-rate event that's held at the General Motors Technical Center. It's kind of like a homecoming for these Camaros when they make the trip here to Warren, Michigan. Later we'll show you some of these bad boys. But before we do, here's our Classic Designers and Engineers feature on Ed Big Daddy Roth, a hot rodding legend and creator of Rat Fink, the demented cartoon character that has achieved cult status in the car world.
When it comes to building hot rods, few people can match the sheer creativity of Ed Big Daddy Roth. His creations are icons in the world of hot rodding, and many of them have become legends. But he didn't build the cars for glory. Roth just loved what he was doing.
We'd look for parts, suspension parts, flathead parts, dual intake manifolds, those kind of things. We would look around, we'd be messing with putting it together. And so I would be painting at the car shows, and just kept on going, and guys would say, well, come to my show, come to my show. Luckily, I had a trailer in the early days when anybody else was driving their cars. I had a small trailer, and I was able to go to Arizona and New Mexico, where the other guys from California, they just wanted to stay in California. They thought I was nuts for going to these other car shows.
Roth's first completely fabricated hot rod was the Outlaw. He made the frame out of the rails of a '29 Ford and added an old Cadillac engine. The Outlaw was such a hit that the Revell Model Company contacted Roth about producing a model of the car. At this time, Roth didn't have a nickname, and that bothered Revell. They felt a cool moniker would help the sales of the model.
Well, in high school, they called me Eddie Spaghetti, and I said, no, you can't use that. So he says, well, how many children do you have? I says, 5. He says, we will call you Big Daddy then. I says, that's fine. That was 40 years ago, and it's worked for me ever since.
Roth went on to build many more hot rods. He was even contracted to build a car for the Addams Family television show. But the show was canceled before the Druid Princess was finished. Some of his more famous rods are the Beatnik Bandit, Rotar, and Mysterion. Then he moved into the world of motorcycles and trikes, three-wheeled creations that were part car, part chopper. When Hot Rod magazine refused to publish photos he had taken of choppers, Roth founded and published Choppers magazine out of his home for 3 years before he sold the enterprise. He's even built motorized little red wagons. But Roth's most famous creation doesn't even have an engine. It's the cartoon character, Rat Fink.
The guys in the late 50s were forming car clubs. You know, the Buccaneers and the Clutch Artists and the 3/2s and the SCTA, they were all clubs that needed identification. So instead of going out and buying a rear window and putting that club on it like they do in the 90s now, we would wear t-shirts and put our name in the back of the t-shirt along with the picture that went along with the title. And it sort of evolved into where, well, the Disney guy says you can't use the Disney characters. The Hanna-Barbera guy says you can't use the Hanna-Barbera guys. So I said, well, I'll make up my own. So I played around with a mouse and a rat and a cat and a dog, but the Rat Fink was something the kids always came back and asked for more. And every time you see a Rat Fink, you know the guy's got a hot rod someplace.
Roth has always been more of an artist than a mechanic, and his cars have long been considered works of art.
Welcome back to the 17th Annual Camaro Street Nationals here in Warren, Michigan. This is the premier event to attend for all Camaro enthusiasts. It's also the longest running Camaro show in the world.
Well, the Camaro Club of Michigan was formed in 1969. This is the 17th year that we've been doing the Camaro Street Nationals here at the GM Tech Center. We're expecting over 150 cars easily. We have almost that on Saturday, and we usually get more on Sunday.
What do you think the attendance is?
Easily 2,000 people today alone.
Seems like a real friendly group of folks.
Oh, it is. Yeah, that's one thing we cater this show to, is for the family, for everybody. We got everything for kids, adults. They all have a good time here. That's what we're here for, is just so the whole family has a good time.
And folks from all over the country.
Yes, we get people all across, from as far east as Pennsylvania, as far west as Seattle, Washington. People up in Canada all the way down to Florida. So it's quite a coverage there.
Frank, this is a '69 Copo. This is a pretty rare car. It's a factory sleeper. Tell me all about a Copo.
Well, a Copo basically was a central office production order car which was a General Motors high-performance race car, basically made to go racing. This was not a Sunday cruiser.
Right off the showroom onto the strip.
Exactly. And a lot of the dealerships bought them for their racing programs back in the late 60s, early 70s. These were the cars to go have.
Beautiful, beautiful machine.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Frank.
Thank you, sir.
Larry, a 69 Yenko. It's a beauty. Now, are you actually from Colorado or you just like the license plate color?
I'm definitely from Colorado. Lived there all my life.
Well, tell me about this Yenko here.
Well, it's a rally green Yenko. There was about 21 of these produced out of the 201 in the rally green color. So it has, of course, the Yenko striping package, which you can see, and Stuart Warner gauges. Also had a vinyl top and power steering, which is pretty rare. But my other car is really my pride and joy, and this is my 67 pace car. I restored this car about 2 years ago.
This is a beauty. Did you do the restoration?
I certainly did. Everything but the paint.
Now, there aren't many of these around.
No, so far we found about 7 pace cars with 375 horse motors. And this one's been totally restored, and as far as I know, there aren't any other restored ones there.
Well, Steve, this bad boy is an official NHRA class drag car, and you built it.
That's correct, Dennis. Myself and a couple sponsors, MPR Chassis and Seatworks, put this car together to run an NHRA circuit. We travel mostly this side of the Mississippi, Florida, Indiana, Ohio. We have a good time with it. It is one of the only super stock Camaros in the country. It's powered by a 454 365 horse engine. It's 400 transmission, automatic transmission. The car runs high nines at 140 miles an hour. In fact, if you'd like to sit in it and start it up, we'll be glad to get you in there.
I'm not going to pass that offer up.
Okay, Dennis, all you have to do is just tighten these belts up a little bit.
Tighten those belts up.
Put this net up so you don't fall out.
Yes, we wouldn't want that.
Flip that switch up right there. Push this up.
This one up.
And just push the button.
In the late 60s, the Camaro was one of Chevrolet's great performance successes. Continuing the tradition the company aggressively developed in the earlier part of the decade. But the benchmark year for Chevrolet was 1961, when they unleashed one of those rare engines that overshadowed the cars it was bolted into. The hot Impalas and Bel-Airs were powered by it, the drag racers loved it, and the Beach Boys put it to rhyme. She's real fine, my 409.
She's real fine, my 409. She's real fine, my 409, my 409.
We're here today in Southern California with Robert Janae. Robert, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Robert's a photojournalist in the automotive world and owner of this real fine 409. Robert, this is a 62 Bel-Air, right?
That's right, 62 Bel-Air, two-door sedan, powered by the dual quad 409 motor.
And how long you had it?
I bought it in 1990 and restored it over about a 3-year time period.
Now you've made a few modifications, we'll get to those. It's mostly stock.
It's, for all intents and purposes, just about the same car I would have driven on the streets of Woodward when I grew up in Detroit.
So what makes it a Bel-Air versus a Biscayne versus an Impala?
Well, the Biscayne was a very base level, had no chrome trim on the side. The Bel-Air had chrome trim around the windows, chrome trim down the side, reveal molding around the taillights and the dual taillights.
Which was Bel-Air Biscayne.
Bel-Air Biscayne. Impala went to the 3 lights and had a chrome cove as well.
And I guess the tailpipe coming out the side was pretty much the standard back then, but on the 409 you had duals, right?
Had dual exhaust, right. That's exactly where they exited from the factory.
Well, this car really is a sleeper. I mean, this, except for that 409 Insignia up there, this looks like Grandma's car.
Yeah, it's something that an elderly relative would have to go get groceries at the store and pick up their prescriptions with.
Except this one could turn the quarter in what kind of time?
In the the Winter Nationals was won by Don Nicholson driving a 62 Bel-Air. He ran 12 sixes at 109 and was the stock eliminator in 1962.
That's pretty fast in 62.
Pretty fast.
What would the sticker price have been optioned like this?
This particular car would have stickered for probably just under $3,000 with the engine, transmission, and Bel-Air package.
Now it's pretty much got the standard Bel-Air interior.
Right. I've added a Hurst shifter, which serious drag racers used in the early 60s, and I've added a gauge package because there were no real-world gauges for the engine. The TAC is a factory unit. Chevrolet added those in 1961 to the Super Sports. It was an add-on. Chevrolet wanted to put a TAC in there, couldn't integrate it into the dash in any way, so went to the Hot Rod magazine and bought a bunch of Sun TAC armors and put them on.
I see Dino Don's signature in there. Is that real?
Yeah, I had the chance to meet him a year ago. I interviewed him for a book I was working on, and he was nice enough to come out and sign the radio delete plate on my car. Just super guy, was a great interview.
Wow. Well, now, the real star of this car is under the hood, though, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what made the Beach Boys sing about, and that's what made these things run so fast on the drag strip.
We've got the air cleaner off now, so we can get a better look at those carbs, but those are dual carter AFBs.
Yeah, they're about 500 CFM each. The 409 horsepower option had 2. If you bought the 380, which is a single horsepower 409, it had a slightly larger single carter AFB.
That's right, though. It's 409 cubic inch, 409 horsepower.
That's right. The extra carburetor gave them the extra horsepower. Progressive linkage. It runs off the rear carburetor during regular cruising. You stand on it, the front carburetor opens up, and you go fast.
Speedometer goes up, gas gauge goes down.
That's it. The usual practice with a muscle car.
Now, otherwise, she's pretty bare up here. There's no power steering.
No power steering, no power brakes.
Now, there's also no battery.
I've put the battery in the trunk. Again, it's a little trick that drag racers used to use in the early 60s to get more weight over the right rear wheel. I've also added an alternator. Again, this is a driver. I use it quite frequently. I put on about 3,000 miles a year. The fun is in driving one
Absolutely, that's what they were built for. Now on the fender well there, what's that box? That's tack related, is
That's the sending unit for the tachometer. Early 60s technology was kind of awkward and archaic, so they had the tachometer was a 2-piece unit, the gauge inside the car and then the sending unit.
Well, like you say, she's a driver.
Let's go for a drive? All right, let's go.
But let's fire this baby up. Well, this engine was kind of notorious for overpowering the rest of the drivetrain, wasn't it?
Yeah, when I talked to Don Nicholson, he said, you know, I never broke a motor, but a lot of transmissions, a lot of rear ends. And the motor is pretty strong. Rev's really good, pulls really strong.
Throw you back. I can see it on Woodward Avenue, you know. I just get that Woodward feel.
My classic car will be right back after these messages, eh?
Just like a quarter mile in a Camaro, this show has flown by. Our thanks to the Camaro Club of Michigan and the fun folks at the Camaro Street Nationals.